Matt, really quickly, what do you do with Rich Lowry, that sociopath on Twitter?
Yeah, so what you do is ask him why they don't digitize the National Review archives.
That's interesting. Does it have something to do with what Peter Beinart was saying about supporting the Jim Crow South and apartheid South Africa?
Yeah, I'm looking for this cover here. I don't know if this is it. They had one in 1957 called "Why the South Must Prevail." It might be because they don't want people to be able to find Mandela or Rhodesia or Jim Crow.
Well, I'm sure that they were totally for freeing Nelson Mandela and overturning apartheid South Africa. It must be that the reason that they don't care about Palestinian children in detention or the mass murder of Palestinian civilians is because people like William F. Buckley were known for their extreme support of the Jewish people.
Yeah, casual cross burners.
Yes, they were very, very tough on the old anti-Semitism thing. So that's important. That's really important. That's stated clearly and unequivocally.
I mean, that was a masterful rhetorical performance there.
Yes.
I mean, just the way he is able to answer Lowry's just sniveling troll, which is, I mean,
just disgusting. And you'll get this, by the way, in your day-to-day life too, and respond in precisely the same way.
Well, this is the exact same thing that Hitchens had in his. I don't know if we want to get into it now.
We did the throwback. We did a segment actually with Hitchens and Sullivan where Sullivan was playing the same old violin, and even neocon Hitchens was able to disaggregate the distinction between borderless metaphysical aspirational terrorism and political violence rooted in resistance to occupation. We can play a second of this.
Join with Saddam and the Saudis and many other Arab regimes in a fanatical Hitlerian anti-Semitism that wants to see Israel taken off the map. Now, the other difference is quite obvious. Israel is not threatening the world with giving terrorist entities weapons of mass destruction to
We'll skip through Hitchens a little bit here.
Yes.
And that Arabs have. If it didn't have those defenses, it would have been obliterated long ago. And you know it. And you know that these surrounding powers want Israel destroyed. Almost none of them even acknowledge its right to exist, and are fomenting terrorism against its civilians, which is exactly the same as the terrorism fomented against us.
The UN resolutions that have been violated, you talk about all these violations occurred well before anyone had heard of, or before there was such an organization as Hezbollah, which arose incidentally in response to a completely illegal Israeli aggression and occupation in South Lebanon.
Are you denying that Hezbollah has very close ties with Islamist fundamentalism and terrorism?
Hezbollah means party of God. Which
so why are you ambivalent?
I think gives a clue about its views about theocracy.
You who argue against theocratic terrorism are giving Hezbollah a pass?
Hezbollah was the organizer of the resistance to an illegal, criminal Israeli occupation.
Well, don't you think that
South Lebanon, they had every right. They had under international law every right to resist and repel that occupation.
Don't you think you could use the same argument about Al-Qaeda resisting the tyranny in Saudi Arabia?
Quite obviously not. Al-Qaeda is not fighting an occupation.
It seems to me
Al-Qaeda is fighting to establish...
You actually defend terrorism when it's directed against Israel, but not against the rest of the world?
It is not terroristic for a Lebanese citizen...
It is not terroristic to have suicide bombing?
It is not terroristic for a Lebanese citizen to resist a foreign occupation of his country. Has international law
is
on his
not
side.
about Lebanese citizens resisting anything. Hezbollah is about the destruction of Israel, the use of terroristic tactics to kill innocent civilians. Now, why can't you condemn that?
That's what I mean by the...
Isn't Hezbollah the enemy?
That's what I meant earlier, Andrew, when I said that the word terrorism has become effectively useless because of propagandization and diminishing
So you will not condemn Hezbollah?
International law gives the right of the Palestinians and the Lebanese to resist
First
occupation.
of all, the Lebanese, as you know full well, is a complete
Al-Qaeda is not a
euphemism.
guerrilla organization fighting occupation.
Hezbollah is an international terrorist group funded in part from the mullahs in Iran that you despise, and yet you will not condemn it for its suicide attacks on Israel and its use of terrorist tactics.
I'm emphasizing what isn't obvious, Andrew. Okay, I'm emphasizing
well, I'd like you to emphasize just for the record what is obvious.
I'm emphasizing what isn't obvious, Andrew, is still one of the lines of the century. But that's it. And that's adult. And as I said, there's nothing wrong with having a specific because under international norms, and we can't resort to law. Law is not going to save us. Law is subordinate to power, no doubt. But there are legal justifications upon which a state engages in military action, and how the ground rules of how they're supposed to do that. Israel's in violation of every one of those laws and precedents every time it bombards Gaza, a place that has the population density of Queens. It's a giant open-air prison, and they kill hundreds of civilians. That's a violation. You go back to the Goldstone report, Operation Cast Lead, endless war crimes committed by Israel. So I have no problem saying, look, if you shoot a rocket specifically to kill a civilian, yes, that is a war crime. The broader context of a guerrilla organization in an occupied country has a right to resist as they see fit. That's an uncontroversial point to anybody who's an adult and has any understanding of politics, law, history, and basic reality. And that even being said, it is a relatively broad consensus now that for a variety of reasons, BDS is the most effective tactic, which is a nonviolent tactic. Go back several years of which that the same people who brush aside the murder, oppression, and apartheid of Palestinians, that have no regard for Palestinian life, that constantly fearmonger and overhype the Palestinian threat, that don't care about Palestinian lives, they would have the temerity to twist their mouths into saying, where's the Palestinian Gandhi? Where's the Palestinian Mandela? Well, first of all, Mandela at one point absolutely said that armed struggle was part of the resistance against apartheid. And secondly, Mandela said, South Africa is not free till the Palestinians are free. And thirdly, you have them now. People calling for nonviolent boycott, divestment, and sanctions. And now the move in the United States is to literally eliminate people's democratic and constitutional freedoms so they cannot exercise their conscience to economically oppose apartheid state. Let that really sink in. You've just watched a Michael Brooks show video, and you can watch all of our full main live shows every Tuesday night at around 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and subscribe to get all of the clips you want. We're covering the globe. We're focusing on international relations, the intellectual dark web. We're having fun. We're doing deep dives with a lot of amazing guests. Of course, become a patron for the whole thing at patreon.com/TMBS, or subscribe to this YouTube channel and help us keep growing and get that content out there. Subscribe below.